You're listening to Boomers Today with your host, Frank Sampson.
Oh, welcome to Boomers Today. I'm your host, Frank Sampson. Of course, each week we bring you important and very useful information on issues facing baby boomers, their parents, and other loved ones. And as I do each and every show, I thank all of you. And I thank all of you because our listeners are growing each and every day, growing organically. We don't even advertise this show anywhere. And it's because of all of you sharing our show or individual podcasts with friends and family. And I just want to thank you. So many of you listen to the show on various podcast stations, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're on them all. So thank you for that. And, keep sending out those referrals. But I know that I know why you do send our show out to people, because we have just great guests, and I'm not going to disappoint you today. We have with us Kelly Fortner, who's the owner and founder of Lifelong Legacies. She has a master's in occupational therapy, an undergraduate degree in psychology, health sciences, holds a certification in grief counseling, and is trained as an end-of-life doula. She loves to engage with people about what they value most in life. So, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on Boomers Today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. So, Lifelong Legacies, it's a company you started, and I commend you for that. Tell us a little bit about Lifelong Legacies, what it is, and how did you why and how did you get into this business?
So Lifelong Legacies is exactly actually what it sounds like. So you create a legacy that lasts a lifetime. And what I do is I tell people's life story. I interview people for their life story. And so I look at their personal story and let them talk about their life. I record it and I give it back to them. So I basically start from the beginning of their life and I move through all the adventures and milestones and memories sprinkled throughout their life. And I talk about their favorite things, events, and people in their life. And then I start asking personal questions, whether they answer them or not. I kind of present them to them. Like some of the questions I might ask are, if you were to write a memoir of your life, what would that title be? Or describe your favorite people in your life with 3 words. What was the relationship with your parents like growing up? How would you like to be remembered? One that I love to ask is, what has your life meant to you? So the focus is really on celebrating a life, celebrating a person, and getting to the essence of people.
That's great.
So
great.
Your other question was, how did I get into?
Right.
So your other question was, how did I get into this business? As you mentioned, I have a degree in occupational therapy and a background in psychology, but I really created this business because I have a love of providing a service that matters. You always hear that if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And I feel like I found that. You mentioned my background in death and dying. And I'm trained as an end-of-life doula, and I have grief counseling in my background. So I took all of these components of my background, and it evolved into the business, which is Lifelong Legacies. And it creates something that can be of value, and ultimately, when we leave this world, the product will resonate and be cherished by your loved ones. We definitely don't know when our time is up, so I always encourage people to do the interviews now. So, if someone is in their 30s or their 50s or their 70s and they do the interviews now, and let's say they don't pass away until they're 90, well, then what a gift you have. You have something to look back on your life, and you can see if you've changed since then or not changed. But how fun for your family to see you at a younger age. So it's a time capsule of sorts. And complete these interviews and something does happen to you, like what a gift you've provided your family. This knowledge about your life and messages to your family can be preserved.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. So is it is the final product an audio, a video? Is it written, or all the above?
So the end product is a video, it's an audio, and it's all preserved on a flash drive. And I also do links to a private YouTube account. So there's many ways to share the videos. I encourage people, once they are, get the flash drives back, that they save them onto their hard drives and share them if that was their intention. There's a lot to be done with it. You can hold on to the videos and share them at a later time. But what really happens in the videos themselves is there's a lot of self-discovery for the client that's doing the interviews, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of growth and transformation, self-awareness. And, if they want to hold on to those videos to preserve that and maybe, tell their family where they are for safekeeping, and they can share them at a later date, or they can gift the videos to their children or their family members.
So what do you think the incentive is in your experience so far with people who say, I want to do this? Is it just they hear about it, they say, what a great idea, I want to do that? Or maybe have they been confronted with some life-threatening disease and they go, I want to do this now while I'm still here? Or give us kind of a feeling of people's drive for even moving forward and doing this.
So that's basically maybe asking who my target audience is.
Yeah,
And
that's fine.
all of the above that you just mentioned. So I like to think that my target audience is everyone at any time, but I can narrow it down a bit to those individuals who have a group of loved ones who might benefit from having the story. What comes to mind are people who have close family, or if you're a parent or you have siblings and you have relationships with other people that are valued. There's a lot of different reasons why someone might do this. You mentioned somebody who might be, presented with a terminal illness and they want to have their legacy told. I have a whole group of people that sign up for that. I have a lot of people gifting my services for, say, anniversaries, and I have a love story package. So, say your parents are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, and you gift this, and then you get to see their memories and how they met and fell in love and the details of their wedding. And what's so amazing about those interviews is you get to see the relationship and the banter between your parents, and they might laugh a little and they might cry a little. But capturing all those on video is something priceless, and it's talking about their life. So oftentimes my people who are interviewed forget they're even being interviewed because they're just really telling their story and laughing and sharing. But other people might gift my services for a wedding gift for that same reason, or milestone birthday because, you want to do something a little outside the box for, a big event, like a big anniversary or a big milestone birthday. And then sometimes we have those people in our lives who, gosh, they have everything. What do you possibly, give them? Well, how about gift them the ability to tell their life story? It's something so unique. And as I said, it's just, there's a lot of self-discovery and a lot of joy by walking down memory lane.
That's great. That's great. And so preparation, if I'm thinking about doing something like this, and you obviously do a lot of interviews as we were kidding about it, that you, before we started, that you're kind of on the other side of it. You're used to asking all the questions, right? But as you know, when you do talk to people, you could ask somebody a question and they could go on and on and on and on. All right. And sometimes you ask a different person that same question and it's a quick one sentence answer. All right. So, everybody, the different personalities. So how do you deal with that? And how do you prepare people for this?
So I'd like to actually meet all of my clients prior to jumping right into recording, kind of like what we did, Frank. We talked a little before this interview and got a feel and got some of the nooks and crannies out that might come up. So I like to meet them and I like them to meet me and to see if there's a connection. So if there isn't some sort of connection or comfort level there, it might be difficult for someone to open up and share their story with me. So it also gives me a chance to describe the process of my business and my services to them. And sometimes people hear interview and they immediately go to like that feeling of their first job interview, or, where it's a little uneasy and they're a little nervous. So I like to get those sort of things out of the way, because my interviews are quite the opposite. It's a very comfortable setting. I like to think so. I provide the framework and the structure, and there's a method to my madness, but ultimately the client has all the knowledge and they're just sharing their story. And you mentioned, like, if somebody goes on and talks, well, that's certainly, it's good in that sense that I kind of sit back and record and listen to their story. When I have people who, are very short or maybe they're nervous, I kind of draw them out, do a lot of open-ended questions. I'm a reader of people, so I sort of feel like when things are going a little south, or, it's hard for them to like really open up. I kind of know what questions to ask and what not to ask. And, I tell people, just share what you want to share. This is your story. This is your life. This is your product and your gift to give to your loved ones. I do in-person interviews and then I do virtual interviews, both recorded. But my process is to, have people be as comfortable as they can be. If I'm doing in person, I like them to sit in a bright, comfortable room with minimal distractions. And if the client is virtual, I like to get all those technological issues out of the way, like make sure that there's good connection, their laptop is up and running, everything's charged, we're connected to Wi-Fi, and also have that bright, comfortable setting. And the rest is on me. So the nice thing about my interviews is I can do a lot of pausing. There's, bathroom breaks and coffee and water breaks if needed. If someone says something that they don't really want in the video, I can certainly do edits. I like to think that it's just like having coffee with an old friend. That's the kind of atmosphere I like to provide. And a lot of people tell me like, oh, it's just like you're my friend. So, there's not a lot of pressure. It's very comfortable. And one thing I like to add is there is no homework. There's a lot of businesses out there that, I'm going to send you an email once a week and answer that email. And in the end, I'll provide you with a product. I like to say to my clients, like, all you really need to do is show up, with a few extra little things like connectivity and lighting. But other than that, there is no homework involved. It's very comfortable, and I kind of do all the work. The videos, in the end, the product is really only the client in the frame. I am just heard asking the questions. I'm not in the frame. And depending on what product you sign up for, you'll get a flash drive of all the components, the videos, the audios, and the links. Some of my large packages have a personalized binder to keep all your important documents in. It's kind of a commemorative way to store all your important items.
Great. So we're going to take a real quick break, Kelly, I promise, just to recognize our sponsor. And then we come back, You'll be able to share with our listeners, where your website where they can go to learn more. And also we'll talk about, you mentioned you have kind of various options and packages, and we could discuss that as well when we come back. How's that? Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So do you know anyone who may be concerned about an older driver? Well, Senior Care Authority's Beyond Driving with Dignity program is a facilitated self-assessment program for older drivers. This program has been designed to serve as a vital tool to facilitate older drivers and their families as they make appropriate decisions regarding the future of one's safe driving career. If the individual is a safe driver, an advisor will provide him or her with strategies on how to remain a safe driver as they progress through the aging process. If driving retirement is the appropriate decision, then the individual and their family are offered possible alternatives, resources, and a specific plan to ensure a smooth and successful transition from the driver's seat to the passenger seat. So to learn more, go to www.beyonddrivingwithdignity.com or call 877-907-8841 to connect with a Senior Care Authority advisor in your area. We're back with Kelly Fortner, who is the founder and owner of Lifelong Legacies. So Kelly, maybe we could just start out, share with everybody, it's commercial time. Go ahead and share your website, anything else you would like to share with our listeners.
My website is lifelonglegacies.com, and you can find all the information on there as far as packages and pricing and my email, my phone number. I'm able to be reached by any of those methods. I like to think I'm very responsive to anyone who reaches out. The three main areas that I have on my business are family background, which is basically an oral family tree. So sometimes, you'll have people in your life and you're like, wow, I don't really know where they went to school, or I don't know, I don't remember all the names of my aunts and uncles. This section, I just kind of go through a lot of the facts. I get details on, a person's parents and their parents and, where, things happened, wedding, where did the wedding happen, what church, those kind of things in education and, the family lines. So that is family background. And then I have an area called favorite things. So I like to think of this section as fun. And I ask, like, what is your favorite, book? What's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite hobby? What's your favorite color? All of these things are items that people think they know about a person, but sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. I'll throw in this little bit. I interviewed my teenage children, and when I asked my son what his favorite color was, he told me it was yellow. And I said, really? That's my favorite color. And he's like, I know that it's your favorite color, but how do you not know it's mine? It's because sometimes we don't ask the questions. We think we know about people. So this is just a fun area. And I ask all these things like, have you ever done this? Have you ever met someone famous? Or have you ever been skydiving? All these things about someone, I kind of just go through them. And it's very fun, and people laugh a lot, and people are like, that's a good question. So I include favorite things in that because those are just details you love to know about someone. And then the final section that I focus on is the life story. And I mentioned this before, I start from the beginning. I go through education and career and love, your love life, and then I get to present day. And then, just talk about whatever, wherever we're guided. I mean, sometimes people have a really colorful career that they want to talk about, and that's their legacy. Or sometimes I just talk really about family and all the people and what's your favorite thing about your favorite people. So I get to the heart of those things. And one of my favorite things is I end with messages and words of wisdom and advice you have for your favorite people. And that is what most people love, is like those personal messages. And I might say, like, Frank, tell me your favorite thing about your mother, and, tell me what she meant to you in your life, and tell me what kind of mother she was. And, those people, when they're recipients of the interviews, it's just really meaningful and special.
That's great. So, before you were talking a little bit about that sometimes you may edit something. And at the very beginning, when we were talking, you brought up like an example question. I don't remember the exact example, but you said something like, what are the three things that, whatever it was, I don't
Right.
remember.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you ask somebody that question, and, they're kind of thinking, and they come up with a few things, and then they wish they would have talked about something else afterwards. Okay. Have you ever had that where somebody says, God, I wish I could answer that one over again? And then if so, how do you handle that?
Absolutely. That is actually something that happens quite frequently, because they're like, oh, they either watch it or they remember what they said, and they're like, oh, that could have been better. I am always willing to work with people, and I'm like, we can add on, we can edit that. If someone says something that they misspoke, or they're like, well, maybe my family member might not take that the way I meant it, we can certainly edit those out. We can add on. I really want my clients to be happy with their products, so I'm really willing to go the extra mile to make that happen.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What has been the greatest joy to you in doing this?
Well, like I said, I do love my job, and I don't ever really feel like it's a job, because the greatest thing is I get to meet all these different people and hear their stories and hear they're not all happy stories. Sometimes I have sad times and people cry, and I get to share that with them and help them process. And sometimes I have people who gift it to, say, their parent, and they say, oh, my dad might be really hard to get through to. And then I do the videos with the father, and I'm like, wow, this person was just really generous with his feelings and words. And I just think to myself, this person who's getting the end product, like the daughter, they're going to be so pleasantly surprised, because people really do like to share their story for the most part. I mean, there's always those few that don't like to talk about themselves, but when you get a little older and you have some wisdom and you have some things to share, it really is beneficial for that client to, like I said, walk down memory lane. And watching people sort of unfold and kind of like have these like growth and transformations come upon themselves. I mean, it's really a beautiful thing. So it makes me happy to bring joy to people. And then I know the joy is everlasting, because the people that I interview have people that love that person, and they're going to be so happy that they had this product. I mean, it's really, so I really call it a priceless gift, because you're getting something that is, I had a client call it you insurance. She said that, we get car insurance and home insurance and all these insurances against these like material and physical items that we own. Like, these interviews are you insurance, because they are ensuring that somebody has your story and told your way in your words. So it's really quite special. And when you have someone who has a story, if it's told by someone else, sometimes there's details that are lost in the shuffle and in the story. And it always reminds me of the telephone game where we played when we were younger, and you would tell a story and that person would tell a story, and so on and so on. And at the end of the game, the story was completely changed or different.
Right.
And that happens in life.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question that's kind of two ends of the spectrum. Certainly, I don't expect you to share names, but maybe you could just talk about the story a little bit. somebody when you got done with it, you went, wow, this is what it's all about. This was the best. This interview couldn't have gone better. And then the other end of the spectrum, this one was really tough. I had a tough time with this one. Can you share both ends of the spectrum?
Yeah, absolutely. I have one that really sticks out in my mind, and this client has given me permission to talk freely, and she's on my website. And I interviewed her and her husband 2 weeks before her husband died. And it was quite an emotional thing because he did know that his time was limited. And it's probably the one that sticks out most in my mind because in 2 weeks, he was no longer with us. And she has these videos. And she had talked about, you have all these videos in your life of Christmas or birthdays and these short little snippets. But she has a video specifically about how she and her husband found love and their love story and their wedding. And they laughed and they cried. And it was the two of them together interviewed about their life and their love. And so that one really sticks out in my mind. And I also have one other one. I'm
going to ask you a question before you go to the other one on that.
Okay.
Sometimes, how do you keep it together? I mean, sometimes it could be a pretty emotional thing for you as well.
Absolutely. I had the privilege and honor to interview one of my best friends who had her second reoccurrence with cancer. And I ended up having like 5 to 6, 7 hours. I'm not even sure how much it is. I didn't tally it, but of interview with her. And she left behind a husband and 4 children. And I just interviewed her and we laughed and we cried. And it was hard because she and I both knew that someday she was not going to be here for these interviews to be seen. And so, I mean, if I'm not normally going to be crying, during an interview, but, it does make me human. I am human. I kind of become friendly with the people that I interview because it's such an intimate atmosphere. And so if I cry or shed a tear, that's okay. And I'm not on the videos, that no one's going to see me, but, right. If my voice gets a little stuck, then, I'm human. And I think that's what people want. They don't want a robot interviewing them. And they don't want someone who doesn't listen to them. So I pride myself on my listening skills and my ability to kind of walk down this life with them.
Yeah, great. Sorry to interrupt you. I just came to mind. So you were going to talk about the other end of the spectrum.
The other end. So fortunately, I have not had a lot where I'm like, wow, this is really like pulling teeth. But I've had some that are more challenging than the others. And, sometimes those just might be shorter interviews. So I just kind of roll with it. I have so many interview questions and it's not like I'm like, next. My interviews are very, like I said, just like having coffee with an old friend. So it's never so robotic and structured like a job interview.
Yeah.
So even when it is tough and the person might not be really willing to share, I'm usually able to get them to share somehow, some way.
Yeah, great. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I'll just ask one last question. Just if somebody's listening to this interview with us, this discussion, and they're going, wow, this sounds interesting. Like, where does someone start if they're interested in learning more?
They should really honestly just reach out to me. Go to my website, lifelonglegacies.com, reach out, and we can have a conversation to see if it's right for you. But most of everyone I've ever talked to knows that this is of value to the person and to their loved ones.
Great. Kelly Fortner, Lifelong Legacies. Check it out, lifelonglegacies.com. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on Boomers today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you and everybody. And please be safe. Talk to you all next week.
You've been listening to Boomers Today with Frank Sampson. To learn more about today's show, visit boomerstodayradio.com and join us next time for another edition of Boomers Today.